Hello, good afternoon. The government is considering a delay of up to 4 weeks to the final lifting of COVID restrictions in England, which was due to take place in 9 days' time. There's growing concern about rapidly increasing cases of the Delta variant, first identified in India. Charlotte Gallagher has the details.
The final countdown to so-called Freedom Day, or is it? People in Sheffield queuing up for their vaccine in anticipation of June the 21st, which was meant to be when all limits on social contact would be lifted. A return to normality after 15 months of restrictions and uncertainty.
I'm buzzing. I can't
I'm
wait.
a bit tired, to be honest.
The line's moving. I've been excited all night and all day yesterday, since midday.
Very excited, kind of nervous. I'll get over the needle phobia later, but I think I'll be okay, yeah.
But that's now looking increasingly unlikely because of a growing number of cases of the Delta variant, first identified in India.
I don't think we can afford again to make a bad decision and open up on the 21st, and then within a few weeks we realise that was the wrong decision, and then we're having to go all the way back. And although the vaccines are having a massive impact and they're keeping the disease under control, we are dealing with this Delta variant, which is spreading much more quickly.
The number of COVID hospital admissions is slowly rising too, but many patients seem to be younger people who are getting less sick. For people who are relying on restrictions being lifted for their livelihoods, a delay will be incredibly tough. This nightclub was meant to be fully reopening on June the 21st. Owner Stuart Glenn is worried about how much more money they'll lose.
Well, we'd lose tens and thousands of pounds of revenue every week from not being open. So it's a massive loss. We need this. This is the bounce back. We're totally preparing to make up for some of the things that we've not had in the last 15 months, and everybody is expecting it to happen.
Government sources say they are still considering their options and no final decision has been made. But the roadmap out of lockdown appears to have hit another major pothole. Charlotte Gallagher, BBC News.
Well, let's talk to our Deputy Political Editor, Vicky Young, who is in Falmouth at the G7 meeting. How likely is a delay, would you say, Vicky?
Well, it's not inevitable, but it is looking increasingly unlikely. Now, why would the government be considering this? Well, just look at those case numbers. And their real concern here is that although that link between cases and people going into hospital seems to have been broken to some extent by vaccinations, it's not completely. So they are considering a delay of up to 4 weeks. Now, what they don't want to do either, as they've said all along, is to open up and then have to go back. That's not what they want to do. They want this to be a permanent roadmap, as Boris Johnson would put it. So no decisions yet. A decision will be announced on Monday. And of course, in the meantime, more huge uncertainty for those sectors like the hospitality sector, which have been impacted so badly.
In terms of the G7, what are the leaders up to today?
Well, a slightly more tricky day for Boris Johnson today after lots of photo opportunities and receptions with the royals. Today he had meetings with Angela Merkel, Emmanuel Macron and EU leaders. And that issue, that thorny issue of how Brexit practicalities are working, particularly on trade in Northern Ireland, came up in all of those meetings. And it is proving to be a huge bone of contention. Now, Emmanuel Macron said that he's willing to reset the relationship between the two countries, but he says the UK has to honour its word and make sure those checks on some goods going between the UK and the rest of the UK and into Northern Ireland do take place.
Thank you very much, Vicky. For the second year running, the celebration of the Queen's official birthday has taken place at Windsor Castle. The trooping of the colour marks Her Majesty's 95th birthday. Our royal correspondent Nick Witchell reports.
In the quadrangle of Windsor Castle, where 2 months ago the military paraded for the funeral of the Duke of Edinburgh, today the celebration of a birthday.
Royal salute! Freedom!
It is the Queen's birthday parade, marking this year her 95th birthday. And for the second year, because of the pandemic, the parade took place within the comparative privacy of Windsor Castle, rather than in public on Horse Guards Parade in central London. Unlike last year's very reduced parade, this year a colour was trooped from the 2nd Battalion of the Scots Guards. The standard was paraded through the ranks. There was intricate drill, closely observed by a monarch who attended her first birthday parade with her father, George VI. Wistful moments, perhaps, with memories of the many years when she would always have been accompanied to this parade by her husband. But this is a monarch who is keeping busy. Last night she was in Cornwall at the G7 summit. Tomorrow she'll be hosting President Biden at Windsor. And, all being well, next year, Trooping the Colour will be back on Horse Guards Parade at the start of the special Platinum Jubilee weekend, when Britain will be marking her 70 years on the throne. Nicholas Witchell, BBC News.
Our royal correspondent Sarah Campbell is at Windsor as well. Sarah.
Well, indeed. I mean, last night you saw there the Queen was joking with leaders at the G7 summit in Cornwall. Tomorrow she'll be hosting the President and the First Lady here for tea. Today, tapping her foot along with the music at her official 95th birthday parade. Different location again this year to avoid public crowds. It was held behind the castle walls, but it was bigger than last year's birthday tribute. There was more troops, mounted regiments and gun salutes, but the manoeuvres still had to be socially distanced. And I caught up with some of the troops during rehearsals last week, and they told me it did feel like things were getting back to normal. And don't forget, many of them have spent the last year manning testing and vaccination centres, helping the country to combat COVID-19. A number were also here in April to take part in the Duke of Edinburgh's funeral, and they told me that he would have been very much in their thoughts today. So a busy weekend for the Queen, the first trooping since the death of her husband, but she did look like she was enjoying the occasion.
Thank you very much, Sarah. In the next hour, Wales kick off against Switzerland in their opening Euro 2020 match. Hundreds of Wales fans are in Azerbaijan for the game. Thousands were due to fly to the capital Baku for the tournament, which has obviously been delayed by a year because of the pandemic. Hal Griffith is there. Hello, Hal.
Hi, good afternoon. Yes, Welsh fans have spent 5 years revelling in the success of Euro 2016, but in about 50 minutes' time, it's all about a new tournament and a first fixture which Wales really need to win if they hope to progress beyond the group stages and to the knockout games. Now, the Wales manager, Robert Page, came to speak to the media earlier saying everything is fine. He's chosen his first 11 and all of Wales's linchpin players are fit and ready to go. So Gareth Bale, Aaron Ramsey and Joe Allen in there. As you mentioned, a couple of hundred fans have come here, and that's despite the official travel advice to stay at home. Azerbaijan is an amber-listed country. But a few hundred fans decided they were prepared to do all the tests and to take the risks. And speaking to us on the streets of Baku, they say they didn't want to miss this chance at all. Now, Wales go into this game fairly confident. They've looked very relaxed, laughing and joking on the training pitch all week. But as I said, given last night's game between Italy and Turkey, 3 points here would actually put Wales in a very strong position. After today's game, Wales take on Turkey here on Wednesday. Then it's on to Rome a week tomorrow to face, well, one of the favourites, Italy. So it is a tough group for Wales, but they're looking relaxed and confident and hoping to get a result here in Baku.
Cheers, Hal. Thank you. 5 teenagers have been arrested on suspicion of murder after a man was found dead in Newport. The 26-year-old man, named locally as Ryan O'Connor, was attacked on Thursday evening. 3 men from Cardiff, aged 18 and 19, and 2 17-year-old boys from Cardiff and Caerphilly are in custody, and police remain on the scene. The parents of a Northamptonshire teenager, Harry Dunn, who died in a fatal crash involving the wife of a US intelligence officer, have welcomed an indication that she may face a virtual trial in the United States. After the crash in 2019, Anne Tsoukalos flew to the US, claiming diplomatic immunity. Harry Dunn's parents described the Crown Prosecution Service being cleared to engage with Mrs Tsoukalos' lawyers to determine the next steps as a huge development. Some of the key figures in the UK's efforts to combat coronavirus have been recognised in the Queen's Birthday Honours List, as well as figures from the worlds of sport and entertainment. Among those, choreographer Arlene Phillips, who's been made a Dame. Our arts correspondent Lizo Mzimbo has the details.
In the early days of the pandemic, Martin Landray and his team rapidly set up a huge clinical trial that helped determine which drug treatments worked and which didn't. He's been knighted for his work.
A year ago, our focus was purely on can we find treatments for COVID. That's been our focus for the entire year. And this, I guess, is surreal in the sense it's personal recognition for what has been a colossal team effort.
You have the ease of a Fred Astaire.
Former Strictly judge Arlene Phillips has been one of the world's top choreographers for decades. She's delighted to become a dame.
It has been recognised how important dance is to people. And dance and creating dance is one of the most empowering careers you can have.
I think it's very ingenious.
The Great British Bake Off's Prue Leith has been made a dame.
You know you make me wanna shout.
The singer Lulu has become a CBE. The retired cellist Julian Lloyd-Webber an OBE. And the repair shop presenter Jay Blades an MBE for services to craft.
Rodri plays it through here for Sterling, who's in.
In the world of sport, footballer Raheem Sterling has also been made an MBE for services to racial equality.
Over the last year or so, I've learned so much about myself, and it gives me, extra motivation to, give people a bit of understanding of, racial equality.
In a year when Black Lives Matter has played such a strong role, he's one of many being honoured for their work tackling inequality. Lisa Mazimba, BBC News.
You can see more on all of today's stories on the BBC News channel. The next news on BBC One is 4:25. Have a lovely afternoon.